So, welcome back to Mrs. Goff's kitchen from home. Today we're going to be finishing off our jointing of our chicken recipes. So this is the first one, which is chicken using the chicken stock, which we had the other day, and we're making a chicken broth. So we have 2 carrots, 3 quite small potatoes, 2 tiny little onions, which would be normally 1 onion, and in Aldi, fantastic offer, managed to get some half price leeks, and this will probably cost me about 10 pence I think per leek, so great value. This recipe can actually be adapted. You can use just normal cooked chicken and a chicken stock cube if you don't want to mess about with the carcass, but actually there's still a lot of meat left on the carcass. So I'll start preparing things. You know how to do the carrot because I did that in the carrot cupcakes recipe, and hopefully I'll be able to upload another how to prepare a carrot recipe. Potatoes and onions also will be done separately, as well as the leeks. So I'll just say bye for a minute and then I'll get everything prepared. So we're back. I've got a chicken carcass in here which has been previously cooked in the oven until it's nice and crispy and golden. It's then been boiled on the stove with some water to create the stock, and then that's been left to cool and then refrigerated overnight. So normally it'd be a bit too hot to handle, but in today's instance it's absolutely fine. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to try and get the stock and separate any chicken out. So what I normally do, and a lot of people don't like this bit at all, is to separate the chicken to the top and actually pop it through a sieve or a colander. So this is just basically the gelatine from the bones, actually just reducing down and creating a fantastic stock. So that's what's normally in your stock cubes. So for something you would normally throw away, that's absolutely perfect. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to bang around the kitchen a bit and oops, I literally did mean bang around the kitchen, didn't I? I'm going to pop this stock through the sieve just to get rid of any spare bones. So this obviously could be done immediately after cooking it, and then you wouldn't have to do it sort of the next day. And it doesn't look very pleasant, and it's perhaps got a bit of a chickeny smell, but it is the most gorgeous stock, and it really is the good basis for any good gravy stock, or in this case, chicken broth. So I'm going to pop it through the sieve, just as I say, to get rid of any bits that you don't want in there, little bits of cartilage or whatever. Going to make our stock really smooth. As I say, if you want to use a chicken stock cube, you can. Just get the rest of that off the bottom there. And then you're left with a beautiful stock ready for the basis for your broth. So now this is the bit that people don't really like, which is where we come to separate the chicken. So yesterday what I did was I cooked the chicken, and I had the chicken drumsticks and the wings on the side, as well as potentially some meat off the carcass. What I'm doing now is just getting the meat off the bones, minus the skin, and popping it in ready for what's going to be my soup, my broth. So as you can see, there's a lot of chicken on here that would normally have stayed near the bone. Might have even been thrown out. Or in the case of you, when you come to buy a packet of chicken breast, this will have already been done and gone for a different recipe. So I'm just trying to be as effective as possible with this £3.09 chicken. Just need to be really careful because some bits of the chicken I tend to rub them with my fingers just to make sure there's no cartilage or any tiny little sort of fractured bones. Nothing worse than getting a bit of bone in your chicken soup. At least you know where it's come from, I'm guessing. And then you just get as much meat off that as possible. Now there's two recipes that I use cooked chicken for like this. And I'll do this after a Sunday dinner. Before even jointing a chicken, I just tend to shove it in the oven, wait until it's cooked. And then at a later date, pull the chicken apart and do the stock. And I'll do this with turkey for the Christmas dinner as well. And we'll be eating turkey for weeks on end. I tend to freeze it. I'll freeze the brown meat or the white meat. So there's lots of different ways in which you can become very economical. You can see how much meat's coming off here. It's brilliant. So we've got a lot of different recipes from this one chicken. But as I was saying, I got a bit sidetracked, Mrs. Chatterbox. What I would normally do is I'd get as much chicken off here as possible. I would use some for the broth and then some for a recipe which my mum made when I was younger, which is called rissoles. So they're a little bit like fish cakes, but instead of having the fish in there, you replace it with the chicken. We normally put a bit of stuffing in there or a little bit of sage and maybe even an onion. And we dredge them in flour, then egg, and then our breadcrumbs. So I tend to use wholemeal breadcrumbs with whatever bread I have in the house. So this is a bit that a lot of people wouldn't necessarily find that pleasant, but it's so economical. You wouldn't have thought that a chicken of maybe £2.82 or £3.09 in this case is going to go so far. It really is a good investment and much better than trying to buy a packet of chicken breasts. So look how much meat still is on the bottom of the carcass that you wouldn't normally carve. There you go. Still more under there, and I'm sure I could get a little bit more as well. And I'm sure you don't really want to continue watching me pull this apart. So I'm going to pause the video for a bit with my sticky hands, and we'll come back and see how much meat I've managed to take off. Don't think I've actually got a clean pinky to turn it off. Hold on one moment. So there's actually quite a lot of meat in there, as you can see, as well as the stock. So that's going to make an absolutely perfect broth for approximately 3 to 4 people with quite a lot of vegetables in there. So that will be a really good meal for possibly a fraction of £1, if that. So back again. So at the moment we've got half an onion, which has been through the root and also the tip, right through the middle. And what we're going to do is a quick reminder, I know we've got this on video elsewhere, the chicken tikka masala, and also how to slice an onion safely using the claw and the grip method. But we do it again just for the sake of this video. So I've done those 2 small onions equivalent to 1 large onion. This is how to do a leek. So again, you're topping and tailing using your paper towel to be able to pop all your bits and pieces on, your scraps. And then what we'll do is do 1 large incision right the way through. I'm going to take this to the tap, and we're going to clean all of these layers here to make sure there's no soil, because the soil sometimes gets in these bits. I'm just going to run those under a cold tap just to make sure they're nice and fresh and clean. Then the idea is to finely dice them. So you can either do them in half rings, oops, went off a little bit there, or you can do them in quarters, whichever you feel is appropriate. And if you find that you can't keep hold of the leek whilst it's so big, you can half it and just do little ones from there. So it's a bit like doing a carrot as well. I always say to all students that if you find it's a little bit too big to keep a hold of safely, then what you do is you halve that vegetable. So you've got a smaller amount that you're dealing with at the time. Here you go. So you're looking for a small dice, not a fine dice. There you go. So firstly, I didn't think this through. I've got my arms around the gooseneck phone holder. Haven't thought this through. I'm going to put it down, put both hands to the left hand side. Yay, then I can do it. Then I can reach. Okay. As you can see, totally professional to the core. Right. Wait. So I'm going to repeat the same thing with this half in a moment. What I'd like to do though is to do my potato. Oh, that wasn't very good, was it? It's gone everywhere. Now, as I said before, this should really be a brown chopping board for soily vegetables. Always think of brown and soil, and then you'll think of the appropriate coloured chopping board so that there's no cross-contamination. However, I don't have one at home, so we're coping with the one that I don't actually use for anything else, which is a little cheap white board. I think by the time I've finished all these videos, I think I might actually invest in one. I don't think Lisbeth's will be open at the moment for some reason with this coronavirus outbreak. So, now I find it easier to peel within my hand because I've been doing it like this for many years. However, when I teach it at school, you should be peeling away so it's nice and safe onto the chopping board, like so. Okay, so I apologise for all those fanatics out there that might think I'm doing it wrong. Just give it a go, see if you can peel it safely on the board, keeping the potato with the contact with the chopping board at all times. I always try to put our peelings onto the paper towel. This keeps your chopping board nice and clean. There we go. Move that to one side. So with the potatoes for the soup, I'm actually looking for a sort of quite large dice. I don't want it to go away to mush, so I'm probably looking about, what's that? 2, 4, 6, about a sixth. So each half is into 6. So half and then into thirds. So half, then each half into half again, and then thirds. It's very noisy, this chopping board, isn't it? There we go. So potatoes are done. Now the potatoes, like I've said in other videos, will be subject to enzymic browning. So it's best to try and get those in the soup as soon as possible. So I would leave that to be the vegetable that you do last or second to last. Carrots, we're doing the same as we did with our mini carrot cupcakes. So we're topping and we're tailing and we're peeling. And then all we're going to do is to dice roughly, as opposed to finely for this particular one. You can do GCSE skills another time. This is just about our home baking and being able to safely prepare a meal for the family on a budget. So normally if I was doing carrots, especially during lessons, I'd be saying, ooh, do this cut, do that cut. Do your baton, and then do your julienne, and then do your brunoise. However, I'm not today. We're doing safe chopping of carrots and a half board, and then half chopping. Using the bridge and the claw, half again, half again. So safely, we have our carrots, we have our onions, we have our potatoes, and we have our leeks. We'll do the other leek in a moment. And then what we're going to do is pop those in the pan with a tiny little bit of oil and just get them to caramelise for a little bit before adding the stock, the chicken that we'd prepared earlier, and a little bit more water. So we've now got the leeks and the onions in my pan with a little bit of oil. I'm going to turn it on to a moderate heat and let those just fry for a couple of minutes until they're starting to soften and go a little bit translucent. So it's really starting to soften now. You can see the leeks and the onions are sizzling away. I don't want them to burn or catch, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pop the rest of the ingredients in and just let them cook for a further couple of minutes. That's where the carrots go everywhere, isn't it? Ah, ta-da! Time to do it. I'm sure something else will go wrong instead. Oh, some potatoes. Yay! Let's put it all in. Why not? So, you might get quite a bit of steam now, but as soon as I put the fan on overhead, what's going to happen is you're not going to hear me at all. And some of you might think that's a good thing, but you won't be able to hear what we need to do next. We're just going to lightly keep them turning for a couple of minutes. If it starts to stick on the bottom, what you can do is you can add a little bit of your stock straight away. You can add a little bit of water just to release it from the bottom. Now do be careful when you're pouring water onto fat, because you've got a bit of oil in there. What you don't want to do is for it to spit back at you. So you can hear that now bubbling away. What I'm going to do is add my chicken and my stock that we had from earlier. Oh, just realised my hand is completely in the way. Doesn't help, does it? You can see that now. So our lovely stock from yesterday is now in there, along with the chicken. As I said before, you could easily use a stock cube and pieces of cooked chicken if you had that available already. So as you can see now, the consistency of that looks like a chunky casserole as opposed to a soup. So we are going to have to put some more water in. That's why I've boiled a kettle over here. And what we're looking for is a bit more of a very thin soup texture for now. And that will bubble away as a lovely reduction and reduce right down. The extra moisture will evaporate and we'll end up with a quite thick soup. So we're going to let that bubble away now for about 15 minutes until the potatoes are starting to soften, and then you're able to bash them against the side and see that they're softened and the cells are weakened. Okay, now you might want to pop a lid on. You might want to reduce the heat. You just do need to not just leave it, you do need to keep an eye on it. So put a little bit of Susie salt and Percy pepper in, as Ainsley Harriet would say. And the secret ingredient that I always use, because we normally always have a little bit of sage and onion stuffing left over, but on this occasion I don't. So I'm going to put about a tablespoonful of sage in there, which just helps flavour the soup and the broth. Lovely. So that's now going to simmer away for about 10 to 15 minutes and it will be ready, either just the way it is, or we can part blend it. So I get a stick blender, pop it in, whiz up half of it, and the rest of the vegetables are quite chunky. It's up to you, depends on how you like it. Be back in a moment. Welcome back. Our soup is now bubbling away, our broth. We'll bring it slightly out of shot just so that doesn't continue to boil over. And now we're looking for as test readiness is just to make sure that potato squashes against the side. So you can see that now it's started to dissolve. So that's actually ready, as long as our carrots are cooked. That's actually ready now for us to pour a bowl out. But what I like to do is I like to have it sort of semi, how would you put it, semi-pureed. So I'm going to actually just use our, oopsies, I'm going to use our hand blender. I'm going to part blend it. So you have to be really careful here not to splash any hot liquid. And when you come to reheating this, you will find that it will spit a little bit. Now it's puree. It will thicken up. But also it'll spit a little bit more now when it's in the pan. Just realised that was possibly out of shot. I do apologise for that, guys. Hopefully you get the gist. See, now it will start to bubble, really bubble. Bubble, toil and trouble. All right, we'll have to pop the lid back on now to stop it from spitting and getting the kitchen all dirty. Oops, or splashing yourself in the meantime. So this is beautiful, lovely broth. You could add a dumpling now, or croutons, or just serve it with some nice bread that you might have got off the shelves. That's if the coronavirus hoarders haven't taken all of the bread that's left. So that's our lovely chicken broth with a little bit of black pepper on the top, and that's ready for potentially a family of four for less than £1. Happy cooking!